Welcome to the Smart Dating Academy podcast. I'm Bela, the founder of Smart Dating Academy and your host. I started Smart Dating Academy in 2009 because I had this crazy knack of giving people dating advice that actually worked, that I took. I've been married for almost 25 years, and now my company helps people to date smarter and to find love. This podcast is meant to bring more love into your life, no matter where you are and what you do. And we're here to bring more life into your love. Colin, I am so happy to see your face and to talk to you today. Tell us, just give us some context. I mean, you're amazing. You've had this illustrious career. Tell us how a kid from Michigan got to where you are today.
Well, Bela, thanks for having me here. And I adore you. I just have to say, I kind of consider you as another sister. I've got a great older sister, and we've known each other now for probably 2 years now, I would want to say. And I just I look up to you. You inspire me. I love what you're doing, and thanks for having me here.
I'm so happy to have you here. And you're such a spectacular human being and just full of inspiration and love and generosity. And that's why I wanted to have you here to talk to all of us about you, how you got to where you are, and what men like you, amazing, successful, cool, soulful people are looking for in women for real. So tell us about
this
you.
is going to be an interesting conversation.
It sure is. Sleeves are up. Roll your sleeves
up. So yes, I have been an actor in a bunch of different movies and TV shows over the past 20 years. Grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago. This was not something that I thought was going to be in the realm of the possibility of what my life was going to be all about. I went to the University of Iowa, was planning on going to medical school. My father was a physician, but there was something just inside, I think we all have that deeper inner feeling of if something is right or not, whether that's career or relationship. And no matter how much we try to make things work because it may look good on paper, inside, I think a lot of the times we have the tendency to ignore our inner feelings about something. And something just didn't, the idea of becoming a doctor I was like, well, this would be great. I love the idea of helping people, and watching my dad have a profound impact on people's lives was awesome. I love that. So I love that making an impact on people's lives part of it, but the cutting people open and blood and all that stuff part of it, I was like, yeah, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. But I was like, at 18 years old, you're like, what? I haven't seen what's really out there. And to expect kids to make these lifelong decisions at 18, 19 years old, it's like, I was like, is there something wrong with me that I haven't figured this out yet? And so I just kind of went along the path of college. And I think at the time, I didn't realize this, but I'm a firm believer in the law of attraction, manifestation. But at the time, I wasn't really aware of this kind of stuff. And I heard on the radio about this model talent search. Come to the Model Search America. You can travel the world and whatnot. And so I went to it, and I graduated college. 6 months later, I was in Milan, Italy, doing runway shows for Giorgio Armani and for Gianni Versace, and having dinners with Elton John and the Spice Girls. And I was like, at 23 years old, I was like, yeah, baby, this is the high life. I was like, this is amazing. But I always knew that it wasn't going to last, like the career of a male model. If you've seen the movie Zoolander, it's kind of ridiculous, And I was kind of embarrassed saying to people what I did. Well, what do you do? I'm a model. Like, what do you mean model? Like fashion model? Like, it's just kind of weird, So anyway, I ended up in New York City, and I grew up for the most part an introvert, getting up in front of people and speaking and all that sort of stuff. It just was not, I have anxiety when I would get up in front of people or around groups of people. So it just wasn't something that I necessarily gravitated towards. But when I was in New York City, and the encouragement of my modeling agent, said, why don't you try an acting class? Because, there's a lot of TV commercials that you can go on. And I was like, all right, I was in New York, and what's great about New York City is there's so much diversity. I think a lot of the times we can get stuck in our little bubbles of our friends and our work. And I think it's so important to just get out of that environment and just expose yourself to new ideas, new cultures, new people. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, you know what? This is not something that is in my comfort zone, but let me just see what this is like. And I jumped into this acting class. And for the first time in my life, I felt like there was a safe space to really fully express who I am, not only as a man, but as a person. And in acting class, you do a lot of work on creating these characters to bring them to life, to the screen and to the TV, to TV show. And so you analyze a lot of the characters. So like, what's your motivation? What's your core value system?
Yeah.
What's your intention? What's your objective in this scene, to get the girl or to rob the bank or to whatever it was? And this is what is really great about acting class. And what I write about in my book is that I think everyone could benefit from these types of principles and insights from acting class, in the sense of creating more specificity in your life, really getting clear about what you want from your relationships, from your job, from your life in general. And in acting class, you've got to get vulnerable. You're essentially metaphorically naked in front of all these people, expressing your deepest fears and desires. And it was so scary, but freeing at the same time. And I was like, man, this is like, after doing scenes, I would walk out of acting class and I would just feel so alive and so like, wow, this is like, people can do this for a living. Like, this is amazing. So I said, you know what, I love this. I'm going to do this. And I was living across the street from the World Trade Center at the time. And I was living there when that whole 9/11, event, all the events of that day happened. And I lost my apartment that day. My windows got blown in and essentially was homeless. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Acting is something I really care about. Where do you go to pursue acting? Hollywood. So I just basically grabbed my suitcase, went out to Hollywood, pounded the pavement for like 3 years. And it was not easy. I think the most important things in life, you get tested on your resolve. You get tested on how badly you really want something. And if you give up, it just means that, either it wasn't the right thing or you didn't have the support. But this is what I talk about too. If you really, truly care about something and are passionate about it, whether that's a career or having a relationship, it does require work. It does require mastery in really enjoying what it is that you want. And the great part about that is that when you do get it, you know you deserved it because you worked hard for it. And I think when things are given to us too easily, or if we get a job that's too easy, or get it, find a relationship that you just kind of fall into and didn't have to really work on yourself or understand how to communicate better in relationships, I think there's an element of not appreciating it as much, or maybe you're not willing to work hard to maintain it, so to speak. And so I've just, again, learned a lot of these really amazing principles from my journey of being an actor. And fast forward, after doing all these amazing TV shows and movies.
Tell us some of the shows and the movies, because everybody's curious.
I started out on All My Children as Erica Kane's transplanted, unaborted fetus son. Try to figure that one out. I was on there for 3 years, and then I did the reboot of Melrose Place, and then this little movie called Something Borrowed with Kate Hudson.
Small, tiny little movie.
Small little movie, yeah.
Small movie. Kate Hudson. Don't know.
Yeah, Kate Hudson. Yeah. Which was incredible, and I found myself on these stages, working with Kate and John and Ginny Goodwin, and showing up every day and literally pinching myself, and I'm like, holy shit, I am literally about to kiss Kate Hudson. This is like amazing.
Amazing.
And yeah. And so this is where the mindset stuff comes into play. And this is what I think what's great about what you teach and coach on is, in order for us to be able to really fully inhabit and own the space that we're in, whether that's on a movie set or in our relationships, it requires some attention to some of the mindset stuff, because literally walking on set, some of that voice in our head can crop up, and I would find that little voice saying, "What are you doing here? These are A-list actors. Like, do you really deserve being here?" Or like, after I booked the audition, working so hard, then it was like, "Oh shit, now I got to do the job. And what if I get fired?" And our brains can go to the negative so easily.
Yeah.
And it really requires some discipline in shifting our focus to what's possible, as far as what's possible in the realm of abundance, instead of what's possible in the realm of like the negative. So this has been my journey of really, truly creating the discipline and the mindset to keep shifting my mindset to what's possible, to abundance, to manifestation. And I heard something really interesting last week in terms of discipline. And I would encourage everyone out there who thinks that the most important things in life require discipline, because with discipline, there's an element of like, I got to work. I got to put it in my calendar. And this woman that I'm really good friends with, and she's amazing. She said something along the lines of, if we just replace the word discipline with the word devotion, there's an element more of, I can do that. There's like some love and some energy and some fun and play with devotion rather than discipline, whether that's waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, or doing some of the things that we don't necessarily want to do in a relationship, or, the things that require us to create the abundance and the things that we want to enjoy in life. So just reminding and being aware of like words like that can really help shift our focus from the negative to the positive.
It's so, so true. I mean, working as a dating coach and owning Smart Dating Academy for the last 12 years, I can tell you that when people are in the swamp lands of dating, right, they might be really excited, but a couple months in, they're like, man, this is a slog. I hate this. This feels like human eBay, whatever it is. And I'll tell them, I need you to change your words. Instead of I have to date, I get to date. And changing anything from I have to I get to makes it a privilege, makes it something positive. I get to go on this date. I get to record this podcast. I get to go to work. I get to go to the gym because my body is able. And suddenly you take that negativity out of your head, and it using have to get puts you in that space of gratitude and abundance immediately. And I love discipline to devotion. And I want you, dear listener, to think about the devotion that you have to creating a healthy, happy relationship, and the devotion to yourself, to love yourself and do the things that you really want to do. And like Colin's saying, listen to that voice inside of yourself that just goes, hey, this is amazing. This lights my fire. This is what I'm passionate about. And listening to those things, because at the end of the day, those are the things, and those are the moments that your life is going to shift. Those are what I call inflection points. So stop drowning it out in the I have to, this sucks, I hate this, blah, and get to, I get to do this, and watch how your life is going to change. And so Colin, as far as I know at this point, I know you've got so many things on your plate. You're, you could be maybe a very eligible bachelor in Chicago and nationwide at this point, but maybe not. I don't know your relationship status. So I see you kind of looking at me like, oh, wow, we're going to go here. Yeah, we're going to go here. So you can choose to plead the fifth on that if you would like to. I
mean, this is what I love about you, Bela, is that you don't pull any punches. And I mean, this is how I am. I mean, I love authentic, real, direct conversation. And I feel like one of the reasons why I am still single is because I guess I've been mostly on this journey. My focus and my priorities have been pursuing acting. And as a man, and I would probably say with a fair degree of certainty that for men, in order for us to be able to invite a woman into our lives, we have to feel secure in who we are. And as I think the whole conversation of providing is a big one. And not that I think women expect men to provide for them and take care of them like the traditional sense of maybe 100 years ago, but more so in the sense of just as a man, we are prideful. Yeah. We want to succeed. Deep down, I feel like we are little boys still who just want to do good by our, our parents or our friends or whatever. We want to succeed. So any opportunities where women can present an opportunity for a man to be successful, I think that is a smart insight that I could offer to women where, I learned a lot from just reading about Dr. John Gray, when men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And he talks about how like his, in their house, his wife, they have a fireplace that is a wood fireplace. It's not a gas fireplace because he said, my wife loves it when I go out to the backyard, haul the log, even though the logs are chopped already. Like, it's not like he's going down and chopping trees. The fact that he physically goes out there and carries the logs into the garage and then builds the fire and then, does the physical act of lighting it. There's a ritual to those kinds of things that I think tap into our subconscious psyche as men and women that I feel like is missing in today's relationships. And it's the sense of making a woman feel safe, and in the sense of even just doing these physical acts like that, instead of going over to the fireplace and just turning a switch and then the gas fireplace turns on. There's really no effort in that. So he said his wife says, honey, I just love how like you go out there and you haul these heavy logs in from the outside and how you make me a beautiful fireplace. You're amazing. Like those are the things that I think if couples can create more of those types of moments in their relationship, that is what really helps keep relationships together and keeps the attraction going.
Positive interactions are so key. And I'm so glad you said that, because I think if we tap into the psyche of women have what we call more of this diffuse awareness, right? Women, you guys were the hunters, we were the gatherers 200,000 years ago. And we had to manage the fields and the kids and keeping relationships up with other women and who's sick and who's well and where are the men anyway. And so we can tend to look for, just because we're wired this way, to be attentive to 10 different things and keep the plate spinning, to the things that aren't wrong, because there are so many plates up in the air that are spinning, right? Yeah. So you don't want one to fall and break. So I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not good. So this is why women can tend to see more readily what's wrong and call out what's wrong. So we can often get reputations as don't be a nag, don't be so critical. And so it comes from a good place, is what I tell women and tell men about the women that they're with. But understanding why she might do that, right? Because this is just a different consciousness that women have, but it's antithetical to what men want. So I tell women all the time, look for what's good and tell them what's good 3 times a day. Acknowledge the good. I know you're wired to acknowledge what's not good. There's a hole in the wall, the cabinet's crooked, the lawn's too long, whatever it is. But look for, wow, you know what? You changed the light bulb over the sink and the kitchen looks so much brighter. Thank you.
Right.
And suddenly the other stuff that you asked for will get done because you have patted him on the back. They're like the boys on the playground. Say, you did a good job at this and you'll get more.
Yeah. And just even saying,
thank you.
You're amazing.
You're amazing. That was awesome.
Yeah. Just those little things make a big difference. And then I guess, to to piggyback on that, I think one of the reasons why I still am single is because my priority has been my career. And then I have also felt like I needed to do some work on myself in order for me to feel comfortable and confident with me before I felt like I could show up as the kind of partner that I would want to be with. And I feel like when I was earlier in my 20s, the physical attraction, we can get attracted to people, and then you're together and you don't really have the tools or the communication strategies in order to really understand or communicate your feelings and that sort of thing. And I, just from watching my parents and other people, they're, in relationships, and the breakdowns in communication and the struggles. And I guess my mom said I didn't start speaking until I was 4 years old. But she said, then once you started speaking, you just started speaking in like full sentences. So I guess I've always been like maybe a more analytical person with regards to things. I do jump into certain things, but when it comes to relationships and marriage in particular, because that to me is sacred. And I want, obviously I want to have just, not that there's any guarantees, but I don't want to get married 3 or 4 times. I don't want to just say, well, let's try this starter marriage, and see how this goes. Like, well, let's see how it goes. Like, no,
not so much.
No, not so much. And I have realized there are certain parts of me that just were not maybe ready to commit. And I have a very adventurous spirit. So I love to travel and I love to do all that sort of thing. And now I'm in a place in my life where I feel like I've done a lot of the things that I've wanted to do and accomplish. And now I feel like I'm in a place now where I'm more ready to invite someone into my life because I have a really good sense of who I am. I know my faults. I know my desires. I know my little bit of what's crazy about me. And there's a really great speaker coach named Alain de Botton.
I love him.
Yeah, he's great. You guys should definitely check out his stuff. But what I really liked about what he said was, he said the best thing you could probably do on a first date is say, well, this is my brand of crazy. What's yours? And so you just get it out there, like, because I think we hide things and we pretend that we put our best versions of ourselves out there. And then over time, it causes a lot of, we put so much pressure on ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. I mean, just scroll through Instagram and it's just like the best versions of, everything until, I don't know, some people do put stuff on there that's like, well, this is really who I am. So there's that. But I think for the most part, the more authentic that we can be, the more open we can be about just sharing what our deficiencies are and just having those kinds of conversations, I think are really important in relationships.
Yeah, I think that everybody's got their brand of crazy. And I remember, doing Steve Harvey's show for many seasons. Steve used to say something funny. He's like, in the beginning, you're dating that person's representative. You ain't dating the real person, right? So the representative at a certain point goes away, and then you start to get to the nitty gritty. And the balance in dating is being able to reveal your certain brand of crazy without seeming truly crazy, right? It's about vulnerability, but vulnerability in its true sense. What Brene Brown says that I think so many people misunderstand is vulnerabilities without boundaries is just oversharing.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
And so understanding how to kind of time the seeds that come out, time the little pellets that come out about your certain brand of crazy. It's like date 1 is good. Date 3, we can go here. Date 5, then we can start to really say, okay, is this a match or isn't it? And this question is something that just came to mind as you talked about, you're doing so much work on yourself and you kind of know who you are and you're working on your career and all of this great stuff. And one of the questions I get from women a lot is it going to be intimidating to a guy that, I'm the senior vice president at a Fortune 100 company, and is what I do intimidating? Is somebody going to be mad because maybe I out earn them or my position is really high? I mean, do you have any thoughts for women on that? just in general, like, does it bother you to any extent about what a woman does or doesn't do for her career?
I'm attracted to women who are in those roles of leadership and who are not afraid to go out there and make their mark to, and that doesn't mean you have to be the CEO of a company. I mean, anyone who puts themselves out there and does the things that are not easy, that are difficult, I find that inspiring. And I am attracted to women who do it with grace and with vulnerability, where they do it, and then at the end of the day, we can share a glass of wine, and they're like, man, it's such a shitty day today. This, whatever, da 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 da. But then, like, there's a sense of humor to it, because, like you said earlier about what Brene Brown said, I think it's really important not to use a relationship as a dumping ground for everything that you're experiencing in your day. I think it's important to have those boundaries where your relationship is a place. Alain de Botton describes it as essentially looking at relationship as an opportunity, as almost like a learning incubator, where you go there. It's your opportunity to engage with someone who cares about you and support you, but to learn from each other. And I think when women are in those positions of boss babeness, I guess you could call it that.
Absolutely.
I think it's only intimidating she's only intimidating to a man when a man is not in his full manliness. And I think and I guess this is why I'm still single, is that with the ups and downs of acting, there's a lot of unpredictability, both where I'm going to be geographically, financial. And so if I'm not feeling stable, how can I invite a woman into my life and show up in that relationship, knowing that a relationship requires commitment, it requires transparency, it requires all this stuff. And if she says, well, hey, let's go to this location in a month from now. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a great idea, but if I get an acting job, I may not be able to do that. And I totally respect that some people just don't want to engage in that kind of lifestyle. But I would say when a man is in his power, when he's feeling good about himself, and a lot of that has to do, we identify a lot of our self-identity with our career, good or bad. If we're not feeling good about where we are at in our career, it's hard for us to then get out of our cave to show up for a woman the way that we really want to. Or maybe we haven't done enough work on ourselves so that when we are around those powerful women, we may be attracted to them, but we also get intimidated, where then we will try to undercut their like pull the rug out from underneath them, because you have then this power play of, if a woman is doing things that are in her power, it can sometimes make a man feel inferior or emasculated. And then at that point, they're going to either resort to attacking or criticizing or not recognizing you for your achievements, or they're just going to retreat. And so, I think it's such that's what's so amazing about relationships and life in general, but it's also can be really frustrating because there's so many different little components that are required in order for a relationship to work. And a lot of the times people just think, well, this doesn't feel right, so it's not the right relationship. When really, if you just maybe were to talk about it a little more and just share, if men were able to say, you know what, you're amazing, but sometimes when I'm around you, I feel that that where I'm at in my life, I'm just not feeling the best about where I'm at. And so don't think that I don't like you. I'm not attracted to you, but sometimes I need to retreat to be able to work on myself, to be able to be comfortable and be your match. And I think the problem with that is men nowadays, it's so much easier just to go to work, come home, play video games, watch football,
numb out,
and not work on ourselves. But I'm seeing a lot more of these kind of coaching groups and men's groups where men, and I've been a part of some of these men's groups where, we come together and we can actually be vulnerable and still be in our masculine. And I think the last little bit of insight that I want to share here is that it's also important, though, that for women, when men are doing manly things, we need to go back into our cave to just be back in our manliness for us to be able to then come back out of our cave to be the man that we want to be for you. And if we're retreating and watching football, or if we're doing our manly stuff, you got to let us do that stuff without making us feel bad about it. Like, oh, you're watching football again? Like, dude, you never pay any attention to me. It's like, well, go do your thing. And men, there's a little hunter mentality inside of here. If you just like kind of disappear and allow opportunities for us to chase you, and so that you're not chasing us just a little bit. And people say, well, I don't want to play games. I'm tired. I want to be in a relationship.
It's not a game. It's not a game.
Right.
It's not a game.
Just it's understanding these little dynamics of just who we are physiologically and biologically and psychologically, that when you start to learn about this stuff and just start reading some books about this stuff, David Dada, I think that's how you pronounce his name. There's a book called The Way of the Superior Man. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, boom. Like I was like, this is why I, like so-and-so in high school didn't want to date me. And like, cause I was too nice. Like men can be too nice sometimes. And we show up like, oh, hi, like, would you like this? Or did you like this? And we think that's what a woman wants. And women are like, ugh. And that's why women tend to go for the bad guy. Cause the bad guy is just like in his masculine and just doesn't, it's not that they don't care. It's just that they're not making the woman the full priority. And it's important that we, both men and women, have your own thing, that you're not making each other the priority. It's, you've got your life, you've got your career, you've got your hobbies and your goals and your dreams, but they're yours. And you're not relying on the other person for your happiness or for validation, or that's your stuff. Like you got to handle that shit on your own. You can't expect your partner to like tell you all this stuff. Now, again, there's those moments of connection and communication that are important, that keep the fire burning, where you're amazing. But it's not like you're not dependent on it for your self-worth, so to speak.
100%. And I think that, it's one of the things when you and I were prepping about, kind of the 5 things that you find most attractive in women. Now we're going to go outside. Physical attraction, everybody knows that's the instantaneous, okay, I'd like to get to know you better. Okay. That's not rocket science. Lust is nature's way of tricking us into attachment, right? Mm-hmm. So now if you find someone physically desirable, I think one of the things that you did say on this list was exactly that, like having your own things that you're passionate about, having your own life, the same way where you just said in high school, you were like, oh my God, do you want this or do you want that? And you weren't fully in your masculinity kind of with your own life. It doesn't mean I'm an asshole and I'm going to treat you badly, but it means like, I've got my own stuff going on. Do you want to meet up at this time? No. Okay, that's fine. Let me know when you can. Move on and do the next thing. And for women, it's the same thing. Have your own lives, have your own passions, because that energy is infectious and it makes you more interesting. When people ask my husband, like, Andy, what do you think about this business that Bela started? And she's doing all these things. He's like, I think it's amazing. And now, and I can tell you, of course, there's challenges when you have 2 people with 2 big active careers, but ultimately dinner conversation is never boring. We always have things to talk about, but we have implicitly agreed to be each other's what we call soft place to land after work. I can hear you out about the things that went well in your day or didn't go bad in your day, but I'm always going to be team Colin. I'm not going to be like, well, your boss was right. It's like, listen to you, take your side at that point, and we'll do that for each other. And it's made, and I wish we knew these things when we first got married, because it wasn't always that easy. But as you get into it and you start to realize like, ooh, that was a lot of unnecessary friction, but really having your own life and your own passions, you don't need to chameleon into what the other person is doing or is interested in. That's not to say you shouldn't. If you're dating me and I like to ski and you're like, I've never skied before, but I'd give it a try. That's amazing. But that doesn't mean you need to give up your life and become a double black diamond skier just because I like to ski, right? So it's this nuance, it's this tightrope of having your own life, but being interested in your partner.
Love it. Yes, that's exactly it. It's like best friends. Best friends are best friends because a lot of the times they enjoy doing the same things. They enjoy talking about the same things. They enjoy usually shared mutual interests. I think that's key. It's not, I think, the most important thing, but I think the more things that you can find that you mutually like to do together, that definitely helps.
I love that. And one of the things that you say too is, in addition to have your own passions, because that's something that's really attractive, is you say confidence is key. Now, if you kind of close your eyes, right? Confidence means different things to different people. And if you were walking in to a first date, let's say you were set up and I was like, Colin, I found this amazing woman and she works with me and I really think you guys would hit it off. Now, in your mind, if you can say, what makes somebody seem confident? Is it physical? Is it a je ne sais quoi? Is it the way she speaks? Like, kind of tell us about what you think, what is attractive from a confidence standpoint.
I would say it's that, in Hollywood, they refer to it as that it quality. Yeah. Like when, a movie star walks in the room, it's almost as if like the energy just shifts.
The molecules in the air like start to vibrate.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is what I teach in acting class. And this is what I talk about too, just owning your space, owning the stage. And there's some people who expand in certain environments and some people shrink. And it's that expansion energy that I'm attracted to. And I would say a lot of people are attracted to as well. And so any thing that you can do that helps you expand that energy where you are in your element, so to speak. So whether you like to dance or sing or whatever, like just keep focusing on doing things like that. And so when I guess it's not about chasing after a person in a relationship, it's doing what you love to do and inviting someone to see you in that element where you are in that abundant energy, because that is what people are attracted to. And it's not about the chase, it's about if you build it. In the movie Field of Dreams, it's if you build it, he will come. But if you build it, they will come. And that's what I've really tried to focus on, especially over the past 3 years, where when I was in Hollywood, I was going to these auditions, I was being hired on other people's projects. And then it was almost as if like there was gatekeepers that were saying yes or no to whether I could do what I love to do or not. And I got to a point in my life where I was tired of waiting for other people to decide whether or not I was able to do what I love to do or not. So I wrote my book. I started teaching acting class. It really required me getting out of my comfort zone. And it was not comfortable in the beginning parts of it all. But if you just focus on what you want, if you really, truly, truly want a loving, amazing relationship, you're going to do whatever it takes to manifest that. And I think some people, when they get out of relationships, when I talk to them, they say, well, now I got to go date again. And now I have to probably date like 50 guys or 50 girls before that's so much work. But then when you meet the right person, it's not work. You look forward to it. It's, there's that energy. And so I guess long answer to your question. I am attracted to women who are in their element of what they do and what they love. And when they then also can bring a little bit of that into my life, where, let's say, I think it's really important and I think cool. Like, let's say if a guy's sitting watching football, he's in his element, he's doing what he loves to do. And instead, because my mom used to walk into the living room, my dad would be watching baseball or football, and she'd be like, honey, let's do this, or, we're going to go to the Smiths on Tuesday. And he'd be like, yeah, okay. And then, she would leave, and then it was like Tuesday would come by. I'm like, okay, are you ready? He'd be like, for what? Like, well, I told you we're going to the Smiths. He's like, when did you tell me that? Like, I told you that the other day when you were watching football. It's like, I was watching football. Like, I'm not listening. Like, so if a woman could play more in a man's world, and if a man can play more in a woman's world, and what I mean by that is, if my mom would sit down on the couch with my dad, even if it was just for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And instead of going in and saying, honey, we need to do this and this and this and this and this, if she could just get in his world, sit down on the couch for like 5 or 10 minutes, and just, my mom does not like sports. She didn't even like to come watch us in high school and stuff like that. She just doesn't like sports. But if just sit down on the couch and be like, so honey, you love football. Like, what do you love about it? So I see that guy, he just threw the ball to that guy. What is that? And why would he throw it there? Like, just express some interest in what a guy does. And he'll be like, oh yeah, so that's the quarterback. And what he does is he throws it to this guy. And then who's the running back? Well, the running back is this guy. And and so even if you don't like it, if you just show some interest in, and where the guy can feel in his element and it makes him feel good. And then he's going to associate you with, yeah, my girl, she like, I know she doesn't like football, but she's so cute. She comes in and she like sits down with me for like a few minutes, and she like asks questions, and I tell her, and then she gives me a kiss on the cheek, and then she goes and does her thing, and one time she came in the room and she had a Chicago Bears jersey on, and she brought me a beer, and then that is a way to, I think that creates those elements of connection where then a man will start to think about, hopefully, doing the things that maybe he doesn't want to do, but like she wants to do, where then he's, he will feel more invested or more wanting to do that because he loves when she does it for him.
I love that. I love that so much. And it's showing interest in each other instead.
Yeah.
It's instead of saying, I don't like this. It's like, well, maybe you don't like it because you don't understand it. So go get into his world for 10 or 15 minutes and show, and maybe you don't want to ask him, why do you like football, as the ball's running down the field, as Tom Brady, but maybe you can say, hey, wait a second, what just happened? I don't understand that. Like, explain this to me. Right? That's easy. Now you're invested in the game. Like, just do those little things. And that's actually such a great tip as a parent of teenagers. I'll tell you, there are times where I'm like, my God, why are they continuously listening to this music? And it sounds grating and awful, and every other word's a horrible curse word. And then I'm like, okay, take yourself out of yourself, walk into Max's room and be like, who is this artist? And the conversation totally changes. Like, oh my God, mommy, this is my favorite song right now. This guy was on a plane and he was 20 years old. And let me play you this part. I'm like, it's that easy. All I have to do is stop judging, stop trying to change it, and instead show a little interest and join it. It's been breakthrough in our relationships. My daughter's like, hey, do you want to watch The Bachelor with me? Doing what I do, you would think I would follow The Bachelor. I'd never seen it until 2 years ago, where she said, will you watch The Bachelor with me? And I said, I will. And it was so fun to get into her world. And of course, doing what I do, that was even extra special. I was like, this show, I'm going to Like I literally had to just put my hands in my mouth and not scream every time something happened. And it was just a great way to bond. So getting into anybody you have a relationship with, showing some interest in their world, having the things you're passionate about, but becoming interested in theirs and not looking at the world as a bunch of zeros and ones. I don't like this and I do like this. Right. No, get curious, get passionate about other people. And something that you also said is, it's actually the number one thing that when you sent me notes for this, it's having an energy match. Are you with the right person? Does this person energize you or drain you? Tell me a little bit about this and maybe specific situations that you were in where someone you thought could be great drained you, or someone you didn't think was going to be amazing, but you were energized. Like, can you think of as a specific scenario?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but I've dated certain actresses and other women, of course. And I'm an introvert, and what I mean by that is, from what I've read about introvert compared to extrovert, is that my energy gets drained if I'm around loud noises or a lot of stimulus, and so I need to withdraw to re-energize and just kind of get my energy back. Whereas my brother, he just thrives in like the energy, and he's always just like nonstop talking and, oh yeah, let's go here, let's go there. And he'll be like, dude, come on, let's go. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit back and I'm just gonna stay. We go to Arizona spring training to watch Chicago Cubs, and there's concerts and there's all this stuff. And sometimes I'll be like, no, I'm gonna hang here at the hotel and just kind of, just watch a little TV. Like, what's wrong? And I would question myself, is there something wrong with me that I don't want to do that? And so I just kind of reading about this stuff, there's different types of personality types. And I have found myself sometimes with women who just have a lot of energy, or maybe just, here's one, and I'm not trying to disparage anyone, but sometimes I've been in relationships, or even some of my friends, where they just talk a lot and there's no room for conversation. It's like monologue. And it's just like, I just find myself just, And after a while, like, it's like, do you care about what I think about it? Do you want to know my opinion on this? And so I guess in terms of energy match, I think there's a give and take. And the more that you can kind of just check in with your partner and ask their opinion, or maybe just kind of be a little self-aware of noticing when your partner tends to be a little more quiet, or when they are amped up, find out why, what makes them passionate, and just know that you can't expect your partner to be everything for you. So I'm not saying if you are with someone who has high energy and who is more extroverted and you tend to be more introverted, not that won't work. It's just that you've got to communicate and understand that, okay, honey, do you want to come with me to the bar or whatever? No, you go ahead. And it's just like where you can be okay with one of your partners not going with you to something, where you're able to just go do your own thing, and you go to a party and you go to separate parts of the room and you're talking to different people instead of having to be with each other for everything that you do. And I think it's really important that each partner has the ability to just say, honey, I'm going to sit this one out. Really? You sure? And not making them wrong for it.
Exactly. And vice versa. I love that. You wouldn't make somebody feel badly about wanting to go to the concert, right? And you don't want them to make you feel bad about wanting to stay back at the hotel. It's like, you sure? You good? You good? Yep, I'm good. You're good? Okay, great. You go do your thing. I love that. That's so key. And energetic matches. And I am guessing that when we talk about energetic matches, another element that seems really important to you, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, is someone who has positive energy. And it doesn't have to be hyper crazy on stage, 1,000% of the time, extroverted positive energy, but just positive in the sense that looks at the world from a glass half full standpoint and is absent of cattiness and drama. So let's kind of go there. I know you've dated a swath of women, actresses, not actresses. Right. Cattiness and drama kind of suck. True.
What's true?
Meaning positive energy seems like that's what you're more drawn to. Because I know when we were talking more, it's like cattiness and drama are total turnoffs. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about that. Is that more in the way people act to you? Is it in the way they're talking about others? Is it all of the above?
I would say in terms of positive energy, it's like it's an energetic, it's like an abundant energy more than anything. So, and yes, cattiness type of talk. When I have my opinions. So when I'm in a relationship, I full force will be like, oh my God, did you see this movie? Or did you did you see this? And I have my opinions about certain things, but it's not like oh my God, did you see that actor? Like he was horrible, or did you see what she was wearing? That was like, I have opinions about oh my God, did you see that dude wearing that purple thing? Like, it's more of a curiosity thing than a criticism. I like to live my life through the eyes of wonder and curiosity. And if something does look weird or strange, I'll be like, oh my God, that's the weirdest thing ever. But I mean it well, that's amazing. Or if I do see something that is, as an artist, I'm not going to be afraid to say that, I have my opinions. But when it comes to relationships, man, having opinions is a very tricky thing, because I think it's really important to have your opinion, but not just let it fly free. It's, if your partner is doing something that you don't approve of or you don't like, instead of immediately going to, why would you do that? Why did you say that to that person? Well, where there's this critical, judgmental tone, again, like what you did with your son, what I like, and this is where the emotional intelligence comes into it, where you may have that urge to be to say something, or what'd you do? Why'd you do? Or F you. But if you can just contain that urge, and this is what I find attractive about women, when I can tell that there's that restraint, and they ask a question such as, and what was the reason you did that instead of this? Where there's there's room for conversation, or there's a direct communication. So I'd like to talk to you about something. How the other day you said this? I've been thinking about it, and it really made me uncomfortable because of this, where you're removing the emotion out of it. Because when we bring emotion into conversations, our defenses go up, and then there's no room for connection. And if you want to be right, go ahead, bring all the emotions you want. Well, he didn't do this, and he said this, and I'm right. Well, guess what right gets you a lot of the times? Him sleeping on the couch and you in the bedroom, and you're pissed off. But if you are committed and devoted to a loving, caring, supportive relationship, it requires restraint. And instead of discipline, devotion to not only you, but if you really truly love someone, you care about their growth, you care about their development, because a lot of times we say and do things that we don't even realize are offensive to people. And if your partner can help you work through that stuff without making you feel wrong for it, I think that's the gold.
It's so funny. I'm going to leapfrog off of what you said with restraint. One of the things that we teach our clients, and it's something that we do my house is like my petri dish for my relationship theories, clearly with a long-standing marriage and kids, but we do something called assume positive intent. And if you switch your lens to, okay, why did you do that? That seemed really obnoxious. It's like, I'm going to assume for a second, like if you were the person I was dating, I'm going to assume Colin had a reason for reacting or saying or doing what he did that was positive. And as soon as I assume positive intent from you, it switches the way I look at the scenario, or we can say I look at the scene, right? If I assume you've got positivity as your intention, I won't judge you or be critical. And it automatically makes me assume the best. And it takes me down from DEFCON 5 back down to DEFCON 1. And the other thing, even when you assume positive intent and you can't get to that place where you're like, God, I still can't figure out why the hell he would do that, then the way to start conversations that we've found to be so helpful in dating and relationships and life in general is, the story I'm telling myself is, when you said this, what you wanted me to do was this. This is the story I'm telling myself. Is that true? And what that does, it immediately has the other person shed their armor, put their weapon down, because now you've given them the benefit of the doubt. Assuming positive intent and starting with the story I'm telling myself means you're implicitly and explicitly, you're acknowledging, here's my interpretation, but that doesn't mean it's the truth. And that doesn't mean it's what you intended. I have found in my own relationship, when we start with the story I'm telling myself, arguments that could have sprung with this amplitude now come down to here. It's been an amazing shift when you give people the benefit of the doubt, assuming positive intent. And I tell my clients this in the dating world all the time. Oh my God, this guy ghosted me because he said his kid was sick. I'm like, assume positive intent. His kid was sick. And now come from a place of empathy. Instead of assuming it's a line. You'll find out one way or the other, but why don't you assume positive intent? And then you're putting that good energy out there. And at least half of the time, it was true. Now, imagine if you came into that going, that's dirty, rotten scoundrel. He lied to me again when he really did have a sick kid. What's that guy going to do? Red flag. That's a drama queen. Controlling. Game over.
That's, everything you said is so spot on. And while you were just saying that, it just came to, I just got this thought that assuming the positive, I think what acting has taught me, especially with regards to dating and when someone doesn't text you back, I think what acting has taught me and auditioning has taught me about dating is that if I go into an audition, they act like, oh my God, you're like, Colin, so good to see you. How was that show? Oh my, I love you in this movie. You were so great. Okay, great. Like, all right, you ready? Let's do this audition. And, and to do an audition, you got to put your whole heart and soul. It takes hours to prepare for these auditions, money, you're working with acting teachers, and you get prepared. And then you go into this room. And then if you can tell that they're receptive to what you're doing, obviously it's a great feeling because you feel like, okay, maybe there's a possibility for us to collaborate and for me to do this movie. And it feels great because feels like there's synergy and energy, and you feel like you did a great job. And then I'll leave and I'll call my agent like, wow, that was amazing. It felt like really great in there. And it doesn't always feel like that. But when it does, I call my agent. So, can you follow up? And then he'll call back. Yep, they loved you. You're one of their top, actors picks for the role so far. Awesome. And then a few days goes by, a week goes by, 2 weeks. Hey, agent, did they call about that project that, felt like we had something, like it was great, and nope, haven't heard from them. Let me check in. Day goes by, 2 days. Hey, agent, did you ever get a hold of them? No, I reached out to them. They never got back to me. And this is what happens in dating, where you may go on a spectacular date. It may feel great, and then nothing. And this is what acting has taught me with regards to dating. It's not that there was anything wrong with you. It's not that there's anything bad about you, because we can take things so personally. It just, you weren't the right fit. And there's nothing right or wrong about that. And the thing that there's nothing you can control about whether I get a job or not, other than me becoming the best actor and the best version of myself, so that the next time when I walk into that room, I am the pick. And some people may say, well, I never get picked. I have gone on over 2,000 auditions. Wow. And I've gotten picked about 40 times.
Wow. I have goosebumps.
That's a lot of no's, but it's not even a no, it's not the right fit. But in that process, I've had all these amazing experiences of working all around the world, working with Kate Hudson, getting to kiss Kate Hudson, and doing all these different projects and making good money. And all this like amazing stuff has come out of all of this. But that's the tip of the iceberg compared to all of the work and the structure that went into it. And it's not wasted. Go on dates, go experience things. And if it works out, great. If not, his loss or her loss. And if they're not calling you back, it means that there's nothing wrong with you, or it just wasn't the right fit. And if you want to increase your chances, what can you do to be the better version of yourself? Take ownership of it. Stop blaming someone for not texting you back. Just move on and have that attitude of, I'm the freaking queen, I'm the freaking king. And if they don't want me, then I'm going to find my king or my queen. But you got to get out. You got to keep creating that energy and that abundance and that energy, instead of retreating and sitting in front of the TV with watching Netflix and eating ice cream, where you're just like basking in your like, oh, I didn't like me. I think it's important to recognize like when, we've got to cycle through our emotions and not deny them, but don't stay in it for too long. Like, give yourself that time to like, when I don't get a job, I'm like, motherfucker, like, God damn it. When you get that no, it's like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, and then nope, Colin, nope, there's nothing wrong. Commit to go back to acting class, read another script, just keep creating mastery. And the actor that I am right now, I'm a much better actor than I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And just know, the more that you can be in this conversation and be in this conversation of abundance and getting out there and doing things that make you feel great about you, you're going to increase your chances of finding that partner who's going to see you in your glory and be like, man, I want to ask that person out, because there's just something like, there's that it quality about them that I just, I love. And like, it's attractive.
Oh my God. As you were talking, like my mind was whirling, because I was thinking about 40 yeses to 2,000 auditions, right? Like, that's okay. So if you're out there and single listening to this, right? People always say you got to play the numbers game. You want to play it smart, but you've got to play the numbers game. And what I love so much about what you said, and the metaphor that came to mind was, they're not saying, no, I'm just not the right fit. It's like a lock and a key. And at a certain point, every interaction in your life is like lock and key. Yeah. And are you the key that's going to unlock that particular lock? 40 times you were the key to that lock. Yeah. And the other 1,000, whatever, 2,675, whatever, that you weren't, it's okay. The key didn't fit the lock. And so if you can take this metaphor that I think Colin so beautifully explained about how dating is like auditions, and you just think of yourself, this isn't rejection of you as a human being. You suck. You're a terrible actor. You're a bad dater. I don't like you. You're unattractive. It's the lock and the key didn't fit. Move on to the next one. I love that. So much. And this was like, I full body chills as you were telling those stories. So I am so grateful for your authenticity and your generosity and your transparency in this conversation with me. You know, are there any last things that you want to tell the dear listener?
I would say now we're on the subject of authenticity. If you're really looking for some feedback, like with auditions, I would sometimes, if there was a project that I really wanted, cared about, and my agent was not able to get any feedback of why I didn't get the job, sometimes I would find myself at parties or networking events or whatever, and I would go up to the casting director and I'd be like, hey, hey, how you been? What's going on? By the way, and I think it's important to frame things so that people don't feel like they're explaining themselves.
Yeah.
I like to frame things in the sense of if they know that if they're contributing to someone's growth or development, people are more willing to give advice. So what I do is I say, hey, listen, remember that project? Because I love acting and I love that role and I love what I do. I'm committed to being, the best actor I can possibly be. Is there anything that you feel like you could share with me about what I did in that audition that you feel could contribute to my growth and development as an actor? People love to offer that type of advice. And they're like, yeah, you know what? You were great. You were, but there was another, and there's really nothing that we can say that really was not great about what you did. But there was another actor that came in and his choices were a little more specific, a little more intense, we felt his vulnerability more in that part. And it just, not that you had fans in that room, Colin, you did, but that other actor just came in and he was just, and whether it was the better fit or whatever, but you can usually glean some sort of information from that. And you don't want to be like, but tell me more. You just want to a little bit, you don't want to keep pressing someone. It's enough where you can kind of get some feedback where then, okay, vulnerability or some sort of feedback. And what I've parlayed that into, because I do some coaching myself. And I was working with this woman and she's single and she was trying to get my take on some of her relationships from the male perspective. And I said, well, are you still friends with, and she did say, well, I'm still friends with some of these guys, but I'm just not with them. And I said, well, what would you think it would look like? And do you think they'd be open to this if you were to ask them without putting them on the defensive? Just ask them, what was it about you that made them not want to be with you anymore? And would you be comfortable asking that question to them? And she was like, I don't know. I'm kind of curious.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. And she did it. And
Wow.
she did it. And our next call, she said, oh my God, Colin, that was so insightful. She was like, he just told me how, sometimes I would just get in my own little world and I wouldn't pay attention to what he was doing. And I wouldn't, I wasn't interested in his world. And I just kind of felt like, well, if he doesn't want to do something, then I guess I should just do my own thing. And she's like, I realized that I need to be more engaging. And she said, he said something along the lines of he said, you can be very cold at times. And she was like, I didn't even realize. She's like, I just was giving him his space. And to him, it was, I didn't care. So if people out there, if you have the opportunity, if you feel like it's not going to cause any fights or whatever, if you still feel friendly, just reach out to someone, say, listen, I'm in this growth and development phase of my life, and I'm just learning more about myself. And can I ask you just a question about like when we were dating? Generally, people are like pretty open to that. Like, so what would you say is maybe a reason why our relationship didn't work out? Maybe just kind of start there, where it's not like, well, what didn't you like about me? Because people are not going to hesitate. People don't want to hurt your feelings, but just start. What do you think was some of the reasons why our relationship didn't work out? And then you can kind of go and then say, was there something that you didn't feel supported with, or was there something that I do that made you not attracted to me anymore, or something like that? And just, again, it's how you say it. If you say it with a critical, like, so what, like, why didn't you like me? You know, like that sort of thing. Yeah. But if you approach it as like, I genuinely just want to know, this will help me. And it, you know, I love you, and I loved our time together. I realized it didn't work out. I'm not asking to whatever. I'm just in a growth and development phase of my life. And I just, you know, I'm just trying to learn from my relationships. And I think that would definitely make a difference.
You know, it's so funny. We do this. We work with some of our clients. Many of our clients work with us for a year at Smart Dating Academy. And one of the very first exercises we have them do is what we call a 360 feedback. And we give them the opportunity to send some verbiage in writing to people that are in their village. Could be friends, family, colleagues, exes, to ask them the answer to one question. And that answer comes directly to me, not to my client. Why do you think blah, blah, blah hasn't found the right partner yet? Why do you think I haven't found the right partner yet? And so the feedback that we get, and we've been doing this for 12 years, I could write a book just on the feedback that we've gotten about individual clients, and the clients determine who those people are. And the client does the reach out, because if I do the reach out, it feels judgmental and critical to that person's village. And then they're like, ugh. But if you, for example, as my client, reached out to 10 of your people and said, hey, I'm working with this great coach, and as part of this, I would love for you to send her the answer to the following question. Why haven't I found the right partner yet? I'm choosing you because you're amazing, you're supportive, and I promise I won't get my feelings hurt. And then my team and I take that feedback and we look for patterns. If one person says something, I'm like, meh, whatever, it's an opinion. But if 3 or more people say the same thing, then it could be something that you're doing that's amazing, and we want you to do more of that. Or it could be one of those pesky little blind spots that we don't, we may not know about, or we're like, man, I thought only I knew that about myself, but chances are everybody kind of knows, right? We're kind of a big open book of secrets. We think we don't display these things, but usually people are like, nah, you kind of do that all the time. So it's really,
and like, I've heard people say like, yeah, I'm so easygoing and I don't understand why he didn't want to be, I'm like, this is a friend of mine. Like, we were talking about dating. I'm so easygoing. And like, I just go with I'm like, seriously, easygoing? What? I'm easygoing. Like, oh my God. If you think you are easygoing, like, wow. Like,
oh my God. That's hilarious. I was talking to my sister-in-law, who the other day. I said, well, this person was just so intense. I'm not sure that we're like a great match in energy. And she looked at me, she's like, hey, intense. I was like, really? She's like, really? And so, it was a very like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess under certain circumstances, I'm probably put into the intense quadrant. She's like, probably all of the time for anybody that knows you. So it was hilarious. I'm like, wow, that person's really intense. She's like, this is what we call the pot calling the kettle black. So it was have these conversations with people that will give you that feedback. They'll put you right in your place.
And the reason why I said that to her is because I remember she called me once, and this was in LA a few years ago. I was at a Carl's Jr. hamburger place, and I'd been mountain biking, and I was there with my friends and we were eating cheeseburgers, and she called me and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm just at Carl's Jr." She goes, "Why are you eating that shit?" So when she said, I'm so easygoing. I don't know, you criticize me for eating Carl's Jr. Like what?
After a 1,000-kilometer bike ride.
Yeah, I just burned 4,000 calories. Like
that's hilarious. Oh, I wish we were in person. I'd give you a big hug and thank you for all of your generosity. And hopefully we can, we'll get this episode up really soon, because Colin, tell us about the Inspire Summit for those of you that are in Chicago. And I'm so excited to be in it.
Yes, okay. Yes. So this is our first in-person Inspire events. So I've created my Inspire brand a couple of years ago. And it essentially builds off of what I talk about in my book, Agile Artists, Success Principles, Mind, Body, and Spirit. And I did a virtual Inspire event last year with 6 motivational speakers and just a variety of different people that talk on different topics of, you talking about relationships and entrepreneurship and finance, and just all kind of did the whole gamut of,
I loved it,
speaking to being the best version of yourself, mind, body, and spirit. And on April 23rd here in Chicago at the Ambassador Hotel from 1 o'clock to 5 p.m., we are going to be doing a motivational mind, body, and spirit. We're going to have speakers. Myself, I'm doing a keynote. I'm going to be interviewing you. We've got a guest panel. So it's Chicago's top entrepreneurs in different areas of career and life and all that sort of thing. And then afterwards at the Pump Room, we're going to be doing an amazing networking event where you'll have the opportunity to meet other people who are just creating abundance and who are doing amazing things. And that's going to be from 6 to 9 p.m. And you can go to my Instagram bio, and up at the top there, it's an Eventbrite link to the Inspire virtual event live event. This is the first time we're doing live again on April 23rd. And you're going to be there. And
I can't wait. I can't wait. And I hope any of you that are sitting here in Chicago and wondering what to do on Saturday, April 23rd, Colin and I both want to meet you. So make sure that you sign up for this. There's going to be a link in my bio on my Instagram at Smart Dating Academy. And we'll also put a link to it in the show notes here. So thank you, Colin, for being you. Thank you for this. I can't wait for the Inspire Summit. And as always, my dear listener, thank you for tuning in. And we can't wait to see you next week. Have a good one.
Thanks, Bella.